So Donald Trump has this bizarre habit of whenever he attacks other people, he's really talking about himself. And let me show you guys what's going on. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Trump blasted federal prosecutors at White House event, calling them weak. And basically, right, Trump is weak, so he calls other people weak. He thinks everyone's weak, but he wants to arrest as many people as he possibly can, throw them all in jail, and if you don't do it fast enough, you are weak. These are details of it. It says Trump criticized a group of U.S. attorneys at the White House event last week, calling them weak and complaining they weren't moving fast enough to prosecute his favorite targets. According to people familiar with the exchange, if you don't do it fast enough, you are weak and ineffective. It's coming from Trump. And remember I told you guys whenever he attacks people, he's talking about himself.
If I had the help of the Fed, it would be easier. But that jerk will be gone soon.
Trump attacks Powell again amid Fed independence fears. Quote, that jerk will be gone soon. And yes, he does say as whacked out stuff as you think he does. This is Trump again talking about himself. That jerk will be gone soon, which I totally agree.
The president's on his way to Detroit. He did talk about Powell on his way. Take a listen.
Well, he's billions of dollars over budget, so he either is incompetent or he's crooked. I don't know what he is, but he certainly doesn't do a very good job.
So he's incompetent or he's crooked.
At least he didn't say criminal, because that was the real worry.
I know when you see this stuff, like it doesn't even seem real because it's so crazy. Even the people on TV are like, oh my God, like, well, at least we're not talking about criminal stuff. But this is who the Trump people are. And it's interesting because they get called out on things when they basically try to just make stuff up. This is Janine Pirro. She says, none of this would have happened if they had just responded to our outreach. I think we're talking about Jerome Powell and stuff. The problem is, though, when you get called out on these things and people actually did essentially have full transparency, you just look like a fool. So, for example, this is the headlines today then for Financial Times. Jay Powell sent senators details on $2.5 billion Fed project following testimony, right? So they're all kind of trying to accuse Powell of like, oh, you didn't share stuff. Oh, you're hiding stuff, blah, 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 right? According to Trump. But it's like, we have a paper trail here. You know, there's like a 4-page letter out there. He gave a testimony. They gave details back in July. So this is kind of an old story. And they're just, effectively, the Trump people are just making crap up. And again, I agree with Trump. That jerk will be gone soon. I totally agree. This is also going on. I told you guys before yesterday, people were quitting at the DOJ. Now prosecutors are quitting in Minneapolis. And I think this is going to keep happening to where, you know, if Trump is yelling at U.S. attorneys saying, oh, you got to arrest everyone, right? You're all weak and ineffective if you don't do it right away, right? I just don't think people are going to go along with this stuff, as you can see this. And then I want to give you a follow-up from yesterday, the type of stuff that they are doing. Then they come up with like cockamamie excuses. So this is also from the Wall Street Journal. This is supposed to be our market news, but I mean, it's hard to tell anything else right now. Pentagon defends use of aircraft painted in civilian colors for boat strike. We just talked about this yesterday. Washington Post broke the story. Basically, the military used planes and then they painted them to look civilian. They put the weapons inside the plane so you couldn't see any weapons outside. And basically, it's all pretty sketchy. And this is the explanation that they give. So they don't deny that they did this stuff. I want to make that clear. They don't deny it. Listen to this. It says the Pentagon has told lawmakers that it chose an aircraft painted in civilian colors to carry out a lethal September 2nd strike on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean because I guess they're saying the unit could be the quickest ready for the operation, not because it was trying to deceive targets, according to a U.S. official and congressional aide. And of course, lawmakers on both sides are questioning this stuff. So that's their explanation. Oh, well, we had to paint it civilian colors because that was the quickest plane that we could use. I mean, how's that even they're just pulling crap out of their butt at this point. I mean, isn't it obvious? But this goes back to the Gene, Pirro thing where she's like, oh, well, why didn't you cooperate with our office? And it's like, then Powell, letter comes out that they sent stuff back in July. It's just like, what are these people are just totally whacked out. Here's more regarding the Pentagon thing. We're talking about whether or not our soldiers did war crimes. That's the discussion. Plus, The law of armed conflict prohibits combatants from portraying themselves as civilians to trick adversaries with the intent of killing or wounding them. So you're opening up people in the military from, I'll just say this, there's going to be multiple things are going on, and there's going to be multiple prosecutions on all sorts of stuff and investigations, in my opinion, as you look at all this stuff. And that's why you'll have some people stepping down just like, I just don't want to be a part of it. On top of that, like Trump, I guess, and his people keep talking about Greenland, and then Greenland has to make a statement, right? Everyone has to make a statement, basically, and a stand against Trump. Greenland's PM has a blunt message for Trump. Quote, "We choose Denmark over the U.S."
Nu står vi med en geopolitisk krise, og hvis vi skal vælge mellem USA og Danmark her og nu, så vælger vi Danmark. Vi vælger NATO. Vi vælger kongeriget Danmark. Vi vælger EU.
Let me read the full thing here. Greenland Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen said Tuesday that the Arctic island chooses Denmark over the U.S., pushing back against Trump repeated takeover threats. Quote, if we have to choose between the USA and Denmark here and now, we choose Denmark. We choose NATO, the Kingdom of Denmark, and the EU. And again, that's basically the response.
Greenland, sir, the premier of Greenland said today, we prefer to stay with Denmark. Do you see that as the
Who
final
said
word?
that?
The premier of Greenland.
Well, that's their problem. That's their problem. I disagree with him. I don't know who he is, don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him.
And then you got this whacked out Republican from Florida, Congressman Randy Fine. He says, huge news. Today, I am proud to introduce the Greenland Annexation and Statehood Act, a bill that allows the president to find the means necessary to bring Greenland into the Union. And it has a picture of Trump holding his fist at Greenland and basically a Trump hotel there. It is so insane that anyone goes along with this nonsense. This is where we're at. What's even more is you're getting pushed back in the Senate against Trump and his crazy plans. U.S. Senate introduces bill to stop military from occupying NATO territories. Like, can you imagine, like, we're even having this conversation at all? I didn't think, and there's so many things that, like, if you saw my last video, what ICE is doing in Minnesota, but just, I go through all this stuff, and this is actually all market news. Like, all market news is filled with, like, look at this crazy crap Trump did here, look at this crazy crap Trump did there, because you have to talk about it. Until we remove this guy, it's hard for things to go back to normal. This is the issue with the Greenland situation, so I'll read it. It says, the bill would prohibit the Pentagon and the State Department from using funds appropriated by Congress, so they're going to hit them, in the wallet, basically. Quote, to blockade, occupy, annex, conduct military operations against, or otherwise assert control over a territory of a NATO member state. And this is bipartisan. You have a Democrat, Jean Shaheen, and also Republican Lisa Murkowski. And again, they're trying to get a bill to, like, hey, let's not attack Greenland here. And the way that they'll fight Trump is basically power of the purse, right?
Last question, I think you'll be. I was very interested in a comment you made recently about nothing being able to limit your action overseas except for your own morality and your own mind. I'd like to take that same question and apply it here in the U.S. Is there anything that limits your power, your movement, your action here other than your own morality?
Well, I talk about morality. I'm a moral person. I don't like seeing death. I don't like seeing our people hurt. I don't like seeing the other side hurt either. When we went into Venezuela, we lost nobody, but a lot of people on the other side were killed. I don't like that. Somebody else would say, oh, that's wonderful. I don't like that. So, yeah, it's limited by my morality, and I have a very high grade of morality, so therefore it's limited.
Not the Constitution, not the courts. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Well, the Constitution and courts, that goes without saying. But you're asking me what really can stop? We'll never get to the courts. We'll never get to the Constitution. Because I want to see what's good for our country. And you know what? The courts want to see that too.
Mr. President, thank you very much. For the record, I do think I'd have this job, even if the other guys won.
Yeah, but at a lesser salary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
On top of that, and it just gets more nuts, Trump is actually considering attacking Iran. I don't want to make light of what's happening in Iran. The situation, I'm getting different numbers. It could be civilian deaths, could be in the hundreds, it could be in the thousands. It's hard to say for sure, but it's really ugly over there. And I guess to make it uglier, Trump wants to attack and it's just it's bad all around. I'll say this whole thing is bad all around. And this is your headline then. Trump hints at an Iran decision as advisors meet to prepare strike options, right? And this was from New York Times, so it's hard to say, but quote, shoot to kill. Accounts of brutal crackdown emerged from Iran. As many as 3,000 feared dead as witnesses described government forces firing on unarmed protesters. And I guess there's videos out there. They're talking about like automatic weapons. It's bad. I'll just say it's bad. It doesn't necessarily mean the USA needs to go start bombing or start sending our troops in the situation. I'll just say the whole thing's bad. I'll read a little bit of you if you guys haven't followed this. Eyewitness say government forces have begun opening fire, apparently with automatic weapons, and at times seemingly indiscriminately on unarmed protesters. Hospital workers say protesters have been coming in with pellet injuries, but now arrive with gunshot wounds and skull fractures. One doctor called it a mass casualty situation. So the whole thing is ugly. And I just want to say this, like, if you're going to speak out on this kind of stuff, like, why wouldn't he speak out and say what happened in Indonesia, or speak out what's happening in Gaza, right? So like, there's multiple things that we could do. And it also doesn't necessarily mean we just start bombing everyone. I just say it's ugly all around. There's no easy things with this, but Trump is destabilizing everything and just basically wants to take a bad situation and make it worse. Worried about relations with China, because I think Trump recently said he was going to do a 25% tariff on any country who trades with Iran, and then China would be a big trading partner with Iran, so then therefore you're going to have 25% tariffs there. And this is also what you have going on. I mean, it's like he's so concerned about Iran, but what about happening in home? People don't have jobs. This is the way they describe Minneapolis. Quote, like a military occupation, clashes rise with federal agents in Minneapolis. And I showed you guys the video. Please watch the last one if you haven't seen it. It's important to know what's going on the ground. And normally, like in the video, because I do like to talk about the money stuff, because you do want to follow this stuff, because it's all related. When you put people in desperate situations, essentially, then some people, if they're really desperate, are then willing to follow Trumpers, right? That kind of thing. You saw this in various times in history. We'll just talk about 1930s Germany, where people are desperate, crazy inflation. Oh, I'll go follow a crazy mustache person, right? The same way I'll go follow a crazy orange person. But the majority of the country isn't with it, and people are standing up. But I do want to talk about the numbers a little bit. So pace of inflation held steady in December. Consumer prices up 2.7%. So this is where we're at for inflation. It's not going away. And, big concerns about grocery prices. And then Heather Long was saying, which I agree, would be like electricity, right? So your utility bills. So even though the numbers may say 2.7, the way you calculate inflation includes a lot of different things. Like, used cars may be in there, televisions kind of stuff, but you may not necessarily be buying used cars or new cars and televisions on a daily basis. Whereas utility bills and groceries, you'll know this kind of stuff, or insurance, this stuff. So, but yes, inflation is still there, and that's sort of where we're at. But I just, for me, I see this kind of stuff, and I see, Trump is completely spiraling, and he's like just attacking Powell randomly. That jerk will be gone soon. And honestly, this is basically Trump's inner voice coming out and saying what he thinks is really going to happen to him. That's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you on the next video.